G'day everybody, how are you going today? It is so good to see you. I do hope you are super well. Yes, this is deliberate lighting, the backlighting. Again, I'm experimenting. Don't get too stressed about it. That's what we're here to do. Create, experiment, find out new ways, stretch the envelope, see what the technology can do, because the technology keeps changing. OMG, OMD, OM-1. What am I talking about? I am talking about this little beauty here. This is the brand new camera from OM, and this is the OM-1. And I want to say thank you very much to OM for giving me the opportunity to play with this brand new camera system that was just released a few months ago. Thank you very much, OM. And on here I have the 50mm 1.2 equivalent, it's a 25. I've got the 24 to 70 2.8 equivalent and the 70 to 200 2.8 equivalents. And as we can see, look how tiny they are. And that is part of the pros and cons of the Micro Four Thirds systems. As we can see right here, size is a pro. And what I'm super excited about Olympus doing is they are moving very much into the computational photography space. There is so much packed in here, and I cannot wait to share more with you about what this system does. All right. Well, here we are in a very windy environment. Yes, we've shot here before a few times, and I do have the OM-1 here in my hand. And look, it's an exciting camera. As I talked about, Olympus is really continuing, or OM, I'll get there eventually. It just says Olympus everywhere. OM are leaning more and more into the digital. And I just want to highlight some of all of the awesome digital stuff that's in this camera that we're not necessarily seeing from all the other brands. So something that I love about this camera, it's called live time, and this allows you to see a long exposure as it's being exposed. So it's kind of like, I suppose, haven't shot it yet, I will be soon, like watching a photographic print as it becomes exposed in Developer. If you've ever been in a darkroom, you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, well, I think you should give it a go, because darkrooms are cool and it really takes you back to the basics of photography. Handheld assist. Now, this is where the camera will allow you to have very long handheld exposures, and again, using the in-body image stabilization and using processors that have got to manage all of that stuff in real time, and just allows you to do really long exposures handheld. Now, I think this is a great idea, and I think we should see more of it. And ultimately, of course, all cameras we have now, whether it's Sony, Canon, Nikon, Olympus, Panasonic, they are all just computers. And I suppose the more powerful the computer becomes inside these machines, the more of this sort of stuff can be added in firmware. I do think, for example, with this one, the fact that the Micro Four Thirds system has such a small sensor, I definitely think it makes it easier for some of this computational stuff that relies on the frame actually not moving to create this high-res image. 35mm sensors, the bigger the sensor, the tougher it gets, the smaller the sensor, the easier it gets. But still, I'd love to see everybody do things like that. And let's just take a little look at this OM craziness. Here we have the OM-1 camera clearly being tested out for weather sealing. Now, assuming this is all real and correct, which I'm absolutely sure it is, I'm absolutely sure that they did this to prove the level of water sealing. This is an amazing test. I'd love to know how long it was in this test for, but every manufacturer should do this sort of thing. I'm not sure I would trust all cameras to be this weather sealed. High-res shot, simply giving you a higher-res shot. So you go from the 20 megapixels that's here inside this camera up to something much larger, for example, 80 megapixels. Now, this is something I'd like to see all camera manufacturers do. I don't think it's a particularly difficult thing to do. Your camera is on a tripod, and it's simply a matter of combining. Again, this is computational photography. Why not? And again, I would think The more powerful the processor, the easier for this stuff to be done in camera and done in camera quickly. Starry sky, now that sounds like another cool feature. What that does is that the camera just focuses on stars. Again, this is computational. It's saying, I know what a star is and I'm going to focus on it. If you're a star, night shooter sort of person, you're going to love that. I presume it's going to make things easier. Pro capture. Now, pro capture allows you to pre-buffer frames. So this is like with the Nikon Z9, which I think they call pre-capture. You can pre-buffer frames, and once you press that button down, it'll actually go back in time. And with this camera, it's a smaller sensor, it's got less megapixels, you can actually go further back in time, 2 seconds, 3 seconds more. It does depend on your frame rate as to how far you can go back. I think Nikon should do the same thing with the Z9. Look, I think this is a great feature. As I said in a recent video, it's not just for wildlife. You could actually see it in portraiture, reportage, documentary, where you're waiting for something or someone to do something and you can go backwards and capture it. Also great with sports as well. It's the sort of thing that's really quite useful, and I can see a lot of people using it.
And to reiterate, because the sensor size is so small and OM have gone to a lot of trouble to create amazing stabilization, it is up to 8 EV of stabilization. This allows all sorts of interesting things, including handheld live composite. How many frames per second can we get? Well, 50 frames per second with continuous AF and AE tracking in RAW, up to 120 in single focus in RAW, and don't forget the previously mentioned Pro capture. Video specs are pretty good as well. It allows you to shoot great video because of that stabilization. We've got 4K 60p and in full HD up to 240 frames per second. We've got a new OM log in 10-bit, HDR videos in H.265, and you can get 12-bit 444 via the HDMI port if you want to record externally. And it wasn't that long ago that a lot of us were talking about, would Olympus even survive? There certainly was a concern that there may not be a future. But here it is, the OM-1. And we can see the pricing across the US, Australia, Europe, and the UK. It's sort of affordable, and it's sort of not. But it is an absolutely feature-packed camera. It's got a lot in it. And as we know, the system has been around for quite a long time and there are a lot of amazing lenses out there. I would be really interested in hearing from Olympus users, what do they think of the OM-1? Please let me know in the comments below, where are you at with this? Is this the right move? Is this the next move? Is this a move that keeps you excited? I certainly think there's a great deal of technology in here. And I can assure you, by holding this camera in my hand, it is solid and the lenses and camera are beautifully built.
That's a little bit of an overview of some of the things that are special about the Olympus. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to give this camera and these beautiful lenses that have been lent to me from OM a real spin. And I would love you in the comments below to ask me any questions of things that you'd like me to look at. Last time I touched an Olympus camera was something like 14 years ago. It might have been the original pen. Now, it's a camera. It's got the fundamentals of a camera, a shutter, ISO, aperture, lenses, and so on. All that remains the same. But it's also, in 2022, as we can see with so many cameras, they are amazing computers as well. So let me know, what questions, what can we explore? And I'll do my best to cover as much as possible. As usual, it's absolutely spectacular to see you. If this is your first time here, I'd love to see you again, so please do press on the subscribe button. Please like and please share, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Don't forget my website for prints and books. We send them all over the world. There it is. I like it because it's kind of a secret.